and this is the Babe Didrikson video. This is Babe Didrikson. I actually have two pictures of her on sticks because I want to emphasize that this is Babe Didrikson. She is a woman, she was running around in the 20s and 30s, same time as Babe Ruth, and I think it's important what she looks like because this is not at all what most women were looking like in her era, that she was very intentional in the way she presented herself. There's a quote on page 122 of Idols of the Game, which states, "In the beginning she seems proud of her lack of socially accepted feminine graces and her preference for sweatshirts, close-cropped hair, and unadorned face." That this style of hers was important. And the reason it is important is that Babe Didrikson was widely accepted as the best all-around female athlete of her time, or maybe ever. She was the ideal of women's athleticism, and much more, she was a symbol for what that ought to be. And she was normally pitted against gender roles as a whole, specifically the feminine gender role of, women as dainty, delicate things that wore lipstick and needed to be protected and ought not be introduced to sports. Babe Didrikson, her role as an ideal representing all of this stuff is a little fuzzy in hindsight, because she was so very far ahead of her time, she was so very not fitting at all what people even thought a woman could be, that her statements about what women in athleticism were got a little confused. There's a quote that says, it's a quote within a quote of someone stating, "She did nothing to advance the cause of women's sports, becoming instead a symbol of the negative effects competitive sport could have on women." Continues, "Female physical education instructor certainly portrayed her that way, but it is also clear that women who loved sports felt empowered by her talent and grit." There's the quote, page 128. So she had a role, it's just not entirely clear what that was. For people who were already kind of against women in sports, she was proof that you shouldn't be a woman in sports because you'll stop looking like a woman and have a hard time fitting in and become this crazy, over-competitive man person. That she was so out there and into sports and not looking like a lady that there was genuine confusion as to whether she was a woman sometimes. Especially because she could beat men at sports, and of course, how could a real man be beaten by a woman unless, of course, she wasn't a real woman? From page 116. So, her foe that she was pitted against all the time was gender roles, and the role of women, and whether she won or lost actually had a kind of confusing statement to that. Sometimes when she won, it meant that, hooray, she's defying gender norms and succeeding, clearly this is the way to go, women feel inspired. On other occasions, she won by being so very masculine and tough that, clearly gender roles must apply. In order to win, you turn yourself into something completely crazy that's not recognizable as a woman. So she clearly had a role because this tinted her entire career, this place she had as the ideal of women's athleticism. It's just a little mixed up as to what that role was and what it meant in hindsight. But, obviously, she was a representative of an ideal, that it wasn't just about this sassy kid, it was women, and what women did in sports, which was further elaborated upon and made a much bigger deal by Billie Jean King in the next video.